Uh-oh. Leave a like on the video if you think Jimmy Kimmel is gonna be nervous. That's right. Ron DeSantis just signed into law, or I don't know, some resolution, I guess you would say, authorizing now the public release of all grand jury documents like those in Mr. Jeffrey's case. This is going to be a very, very interesting week. Let's take a look at all the news around this. By the way, huge shout out to everyone tuning in today. Hope you're having a good time. I'll be streaming over on Rumble at 1 p.m. Eastern. If you want to stop by and say hi, we'll be talking about this in more detail, of course, there as well. But let's get into the news. Florida Governor Ron DeSantis signs law with big potential impact in Mr. Jeffrey's case. Well, of course, I would say that it's a pretty big deal, right? So DeSantis signed a bill today to release secret documents detailing the proceedings back in 2006. If you remember, Ep received a basically unprecedented sweetheart deal that most regular, normal, everyday people like you or I might think, I wonder if he's got some dirt on somebody. Now that I don't know that he did, that was always the implication. Oh, there are cameras everywhere. Everything's being filmed. It's basically a honeypot operation for people all around the world. I think that's kind of common, generally accepted knowledge around this dude. We don't know that for a fact, obviously, because we've seen none of the tapes. I assume they're probably all with the intelligence agencies, but I digress. So in the proceedings of the 2006 Palm Beach County grand jury that issued only one criminal prosecution related to the many charges that Jeffrey was facing, despite police uncovering dozens of those affected. I saw a t-shirt the other day somebody shared with me. It said basically like, Jelane's in jail for doing these crimes, serving absolutely nobody, essentially saying like, oh, how can she be in jail for, doing these things if we don't know who any of the customers are, right? How can I have, broken the law selling you something if there is no buyer? Now, a lawsuit, by the way, this happens now. The bill is going to take effect on July 1st. That's not that far away. It's only, 3 months? But it's March, so April, May, June, July, 4 months. But it's July 1st, so 3 full months. A lawsuit by the Palm Beach Post has already accomplished what the legislation could in July. A judge was ordered in May by Court of Appeals to review, redact, and release any documents in the furtherance of justice, the basis in the state law upon which the Post based its lawsuit. In a stunning announcement right after the bill was signed, Judge Luis Delgado decided he would not release the documents in the Post lawsuit. Under the bill, someone still would have to petition the court to get them released. The 4th District Court of Appeal issued its order in the Post lawsuit back in May. Delgado has had the documents in his chambers since July. Here's the thing with these potential documents. We're going to find out, obviously, there are many other women and men who were perhaps affected by this in a negative manner. But what I'm mostly interested in, outside of the customers, because the customers, obviously, I think they belong in jail too, but they very well might just be a bunch of rich creeps. I don't know. Are they politicians? Are they federal agents? Are they? I don't know. Certainly, if you're buying and selling women or access to them, especially ones that are very young, you're just a piece of garbage in general. But I'm curious on all of the levels and all of the people involved in basically what many believe is covering all this up. Because here's the thing. Then Palm Beach County State Attorney Barry Krishner in 2006 was the first prosecutor to ever consider criminal charges against Old Ep. In the highly unusual move, he took the matter to a grand jury. The result was, of course, just a single felony charge of solicitation, hiring a pro. Palm Beach police had found nearly 24, that's 24, young women and many under 18 who detailed terrible things at his mansion. 24, they charge him for one. Testifying before the grand jury was only one of the people who happened to be 14 and was tossed under the bus by prosecutors by using her MySpace social media pages. Source said in 2019 post-investigation. It'll be interesting to hear what the other 23 people are on this list, what they had to say. Anytime that transparency and discourse is available to the public is a good thing, said Palm Beach Mayor Danielle Moore. It shouldn't have to come to the governor signing an order to make things happen. Truth and honesty is best in my mind. Of course. I mean, who wouldn't agree with that? You see, this is from Christina Pasha. Justin, now Ron DeSantis signing legal legislation to allow the release of the grand jury documents around old Ep, and points out that Ghislaine is in prison in Florida, but nobody else who participated in his trafficking operation has been brought to justice. I think we can all stop right now and say, wish old Ron a safe, happy, like we all hope for the best for you, Ron. If anybody's name is in these documents that could be potentially harmful, I do think, it's like I always say, I like a lot of what Ron DeSantis does in terms of his opinions on like the culture battle, and fighting wokeness in his state. There were a lot of things I liked about him as a presidential candidate, and hopefully, maybe he'll come around to some of the things I disliked about him in 2028. Maybe he'll change his opinion about some of those things. 4 years is a long time from now. But I've always believed, strongly and supported him in, obviously how he handled lockdowns, all this kind of stuff. So now you see, of course, DeSantis signs legislation to authorize the release of Jeffrey's documents. It's completely insane that President Trump has been in court more times than the clients of Jeffrey, of course. Now people say unless they're unredacted, this is just a stunt. Of course, everyone's going to rush to politicize this. I mean, you had rumors of who's the wheelie guy, the wheelie enabled genius guy. He was on the island. I'm not sure where he stood politically, to be honest. I suspect there are probably people of all political stripes on these various lists. Now, everybody seems so black-pilled and is like, oh, it's just a stunt. It's not gonna lead to anything. Yeah, maybe. I don't know. I'm going to have to see the documents on July 1st. I'm going to have that day marked on my calendar. I wonder how many people in Hollywood will be nervously looking at that. Now, from what I gather, the people involved in the early days, in the first time he was tried, were probably not like politicians and stuff like that. I think this era was from early in his quote unquote career of doing this kind of stuff before the island, before this kind of stuff. So I'm not sure if it'll receive the same level of redaction, of protection, and for people that are like, well, everything's going to be redacted. It's like, well, look, stuff comes out and then people get brave and people speak up. There were 23 other people who received, who suffered at his hands on that list that have not testified and have not spoken up. Maybe now that they're older, maybe they will. Of course, a lot of people saying, "Oh, he's just doing this for press and this, that, and that other thing." Look, I'm not reporting on this to give any shine to Ron DeSantis. I'm reporting on this because I hope Jimmy Kimmel's freaking out. And who knows what are in these documents? We know that this guy was just terrible. Of course, the Palm Beach Post puts a picture of Trump, even though Trump is on record basically calling out that guy. Now, let's see, will he release something if he becomes president in 2024? Wouldn't that be hilarious? Trump just goes scorched earth, releases truths out the unredacted files of that, gets on Trump Force One, goes to Area 51, just goes, I have a feeling he wouldn't last very long. But what's interesting is, it'll be, you see this photo joined by two of his, Jeffries, those affected by him. Now, the legislation targets limited grand jury testimony involving people who are dead and crimes involving minors. So again, people are saying, why only some? Why is it? Well, some of this stuff was tried in Florida. Some of it was federal. So, one person other than perhaps the president doesn't really have the power to, release everything all at once. But already this year, we've seen stuff come out in New York. We've seen stuff now coming out from his actual criminal trial back in 2016. So that's obviously going to be very, very interested. I don't think we need necessarily, if these are just like, I don't care about the names of those. You should definitely redact the name of the women. 100% fine with that, unless they were customers, right? If the customer names are redacted, well, then it's pointless, right? But obviously, by the end of today, I suspect this will be trending worldwide. And then on July 1st, I wonder, you got to watch how people kind of move now. You see a lot of these people who are, people who are still suffering from what happened to them back then. A lot of things, a lot of people forget, like he targeted runaways, all this kind of stuff. He wants to know the truth. Others people are very excited. Good for them. Good for them. Of course, people will say, what took so long? Well, you see Jeremy Redfern says, he's a press secretary for DeSantis, said, office received the bill from legislature last night and signed it this morning, 12 hours between receiving and signing the bill. You can give the guy a win, even if you're a Trump guy, right? Like, I still would have voted Trump I voted Trump in the primaries, but there's still a lot I like about Ron DeSantis. I think he's, obviously I don't live in Florida, so I can't speak to it directly. I can speak to how he handled the lockdowns, how he handled the jab, how he handled Disney, and these are all pluses. I don't live under him. I don't pay taxes to him. I'm not one of his constituents. But, hopefully everything will be revealed. It probably will be happening slowly but surely. And I wonder whose names will all be on there. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, make sure you leave a like on it, and we'll talk to you again real soon.